Here's my notes. Here we go. Good morning. My name is Ashley Smith, or should I say Dobro Utro? That's good morning in Bulgarian. I'd like to congratulate all of you for being invited to study for a year abroad in Sofia, Bulgaria. This is a really special time for you, and how exciting. Now, I'm sure with that excitement comes a little bit of unease and apprehension because you're going to be spending a significant amount of time in another country. And I want to help you transition away from a tourist mindset meaning labeling behaviors or societal norms that are different than what we experience in the West as weird or odd. We're not here to do that. We're going to adopt a second set of rules while we stay in Bulgaria because we have been invited to live in Bulgaria for a year, and we are going to respect that country, and we're going to try to integrate as seamlessly as possible into their culture. Now, Bulgaria is a high context, polychronic time culture. They have a high power distance hierarchy, and they tend to have a wariness of outsiders. Doesn't mean it's bad, just simply means it's different than what we experience in the West. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about foundations and the cultural factor group. So Edward T. Hall's theories about high context and time. High context is what Bulgaria is. So their context is high. So it doesn't just mean what is being said is important, but it also means who you're speaking to is important, so the receiver of that message, and what the setting is. So it's not just about the words, it's also about the receiver of the message and the setting that you're in. Time. Now in America, we're a go, go, go culture, right? So there are schedules in Bulgaria. Yes, there are. They have classes start at a specific time, work starts at a specific time. They may have meetings, start at a specific time. However, time is fluid, okay? So if you have, say, a group presentation meeting at 2 o'clock and your Bulgarian groupmate is 15 minutes late, that does not mean that they're rude or disregarding your time. That simply means that they were most likely engaged in talking to someone else who they prioritized over rushing off to that meeting. Rushing off to a meeting and walking away from someone can be perceived as rude, which is the opposite of America, right? To dilly-dally and chit-chat and be late for a meeting would be perceived as rude. So you just want to be aware of that. So Bulgarians, they are not late. They are just prioritizing the person in front of them. Another aspect of cultural factor group, Geert Hofstede, the dimensions. So there's a high power distance in Bulgaria, okay? Bulgarian professors, you're going to be interacting with them every day. You're going to study in Bulgaria, right? So they're considered high authority. Now here in the States, you may have a more lateral relationship with your professors, okay? In Bulgaria, they're high authority, which means they're held in high regard and esteemed in that society, as they should be, right? They're an educator. So they're going to keep a formal barrier between the student and themselves. This does not mean they are rude or they are cold or they dislike you, okay? It's actually exactly the opposite. It's like an act of mutual respect, okay? They are the professor, you are the student, and that is the relationship. There's also high uncertainty avoidance in Bulgaria, so they can be very cautious of outsiders. This doesn't mean that they dislike outsiders. It just means high uncertainty avoidance. They don't know you, right? So until they get to know you and have some familiarity, they may be a little more standoffish, and that's okay. I'm living in the American South, right? We've never met a stranger in our lives, but in Bulgaria, that's simply different. And like I said, we're gonna adopt a second set of rules while we're in Bulgaria, and we're gonna understand that. And then collectivism. Collectivism simply means that they really prioritize close-knit families and social groups. So that is a big currency in Bulgaria, right? They're super close families, super close-knit social groups. Frommer says that nepotism is seen as a value. Okay, nepotism is kind of a dirty word here in the States, but in Bulgaria, receiving a job because so-and-so is your uncle is seen as valuable, or getting the best service at that cafe because your friend knows so-and-so is seen as valuable. So very different, but not bad. Okay, so we're gonna do a little demonstration real quick. Okay, I want everybody to try to clear their headspace because this always throws everyone for a loop. All right, so we're gonna do a head gesture demonstration. All right, so I'm gonna ask you if you like the coffee, okay? All right, so do you like the coffee? I want you to say yes. Western style. Okay, yes, I do. All right, let's do it Bulgarian style now, okay? So do you like the coffee? Da. Right? It kind of breaks your brain a little bit, especially if you've been used to the Western style of communication. But they shake the head yes for a positive response. Okay. And then let's do it the other way. Do you like this coffee? No. Now we're going to do it the Bulgarian way. Do you like this coffee? Niet. So it's going to be a bit of a brain teaser, but second set of rules, we're going to learn to adopt that and be cognizant of what our head shakes mean. Now, proxemics and eye contact. In Bulgaria, according to the Bulgarian embassy, Bulgarians really value eye contact. So when you first meet somebody, you want to use a formal greeting, a firm handshake, and you want to look them directly in the eye. This is not perceived as aggressive. This is perceived as being honest and authentic. To look away or not make eye contact could be perceived as being dishonest, okay? Physical space may be closer than in the US. So you may meet someone and they may be closer to your body. That's just the culture. If you were to step back, that could be perceived as being cold towards that person. So if you want to make bonds and form, friendships and get to know people, you need to be aware that they tend to have a little more close physical proximity. And then earlier we were talking about professors and peer interactions and high context, right? So saving face, it is disrespectful to handle disagreements publicly or to correct a peer professor in front of others, all right? So no one wants to be dressed down in front of others, okay? Whether you're Western or Bulgarian. But in Bulgaria, it's deeply offensive. And that is where high context comes in, who you're speaking to, the setting, other than just the words coming out of your mouth. So if you were to have a disagreement with a peer about a project, or you wanted to correct a professor, you would want to wait until a later time to pull them to the side and have that conversation privately. You never want to do that publicly, and that could be embarrassing for them. Okay. Social etiquette. So according to the International Journal of Business and Economic Affairs and the Bulgarian Embassy, coffee culture in Bulgaria, right? If someone asks you to go for coffee, I want you to block out 2 hours. All right. Not only are you going to have some delicious coffee, but you're probably going to have one of the most interesting conversations of your life. You're going to be there for 2 hours. You're going to have an exchange of words and emotions and information, and it's going to be great. And I don't want you to rush away from that situation. In Bulgaria, 2 hours for coffee, that is the norm. Enjoy it. Also, lingering over a meal. Meals are not rushed. Meals are a big event. If you're invited to a host family or your professor's home for a dinner, I want you to bring fresh flowers. An odd number though, not an even number, that's for funerals. I want you to bring a bottle of wine. I don't want it to be expensive, okay? They don't like expensive gifts. That could be, seen as embarrassing for the receiver of that gift. So I want you to keep the dollar value low, but the thoughtfulness high, okay? They'll really appreciate the thoughtfulness. And then gender and age. So you'll see women and girls linking arms or holding hands when walking to and from shops or the cafes or around university. That is part of the culture. And then elders. Elders are deeply respected part of Bulgarian culture, okay? You should always greet them with a formal greeting. And if you were to say get onto a train and an elder person were to board behind you, you need to pop up and offer them that seat, okay? We respect our elders here in the States, but they really respect their old elders in Bulgaria, and we want to honor that country and do the same. So, in conclusion, Bulgaria, it is a rich, beautiful country, lot of history, lot of culture. And yes, some of the customs and what we're used to in the States may be a little bit different than Bulgarian culture and customs. However, I want to close with a quote here for you from Milton Bennett's Developmental Model of Intercultural Sensitivity. Cultural integration is not about losing your identity to a new environment. It is about expanding your identity to include a second set of rules. So I want you to remember, you're not losing your first set of rules. You're just adopting a second set of rules while you're in Bulgaria, and you're going to have the time of your lives. So I wish you the best of luck and have fun.